And here we go. And we're on page Taf Yud Ches. And we're going a little ground that maybe we covered before. I'm not sure. We'll see if we can find anything interesting. So down at the bottom of the corner of that page is where the Pirush Rahut starts. But, so it says, Katnis Rishon hu Elokim b'milu v'gadlus Rishon hi chuvai b'milui. He wants to, the whole fifth parak, or at least the first part of the fifth parak, fifth SHAAR, for what they call fifth drush, really dealt with Katnis Rishon and the Elokims and how the different changes are and so on and so forth. And it seemed like it's just like not the right order, but it's not the right order because we don't do it with it's pushed off. Later on over here, he goes through it and he says that it is, it says that it isn't the way it appears. He wants to talk about godless Katnis Rishon first. And then he talk about some other thing, the other different levels, Katnis Sheni and so on and so forth. Let's see how he does it. Every place in its right place. So he says that's where we're going to get to that. How we understand that in a short form. So he says he wants to say this a short way. So we'll start once again talk about Katnis Rishon. So just placing it, Katnis Rishon and Katnis Rishon has to do with Yisrael Savat Devuna. Hashem Alavushin shall Yisrael Savat Devuna. Haniknas b'derek klal that go in, generally speaking, that just come in. I don't know what he means by derek klal, but they come in. And we learned this already. And he shows it. He says, and that's where it's located. That's the lavush around it. So he says, and he shows it to us, which is clothed in their hod. B'shem Elokim Demilui Olofim. Now that name is shows again. Huba b'chidus adas mislavish b'yisod shalachem simona yehei. So he wants to say something about this. There's probably a lot more to get into this phrase yehei because it also appears k'nizkar b'inyan the kaddish etzalachem mimruz yehei shmei rabba. So it means the three lines. It also means he's saying, at least a little bit over here, he's saying that also represents the three Elokims, which are Mochad Katnas. Ki Seder Osius Yehei, Hu Yudin, Heyin, and Lofin, it follows the same way, but we're not actually looking at the depth of that. I just want to mention also that when Sphira starts, and I hope you'll agree with me that I want to do the same thing again. I want to go through. Last year we started in the first parak. I don't know how far we did. The first drush in Sphira. And then I think we skipped to the back. There's some Rashash back there. But we never see the whole thing. We never see there's 12 drushos over there. We never saw the whole thing. So I think it would be good for us. This follows, I think, more the derech of Rabbeinu HaKodesh, to start at the beginning and go all the way through it and see what you're dealing with your permission. That's what I think I'd like to do. Okay, so now we're over here on Yesh Heker B'Shemos Muach Hadas Bein Chasada Shabo the Bein Gvur Shabo Ki Zecher Zachar V'Zeh Nekeva. Interesting. So he said, "V'nintzes v'masher yizbar shaladas nechlach l'shnei cholochin ki b'yisod Yisrael Yisrael Sava Tevuna Shuhu Malvish L'Muach Hadas." And so the way he says that it actually covers over. So let's talk about the Yisod, the Yisrael Sava Tevuna. The Katnis Rishon, the Shechah Be'arda Shuhu Shem Elokim Demilui Alofim Shabo B'Shabo Hine Yesh Bo Shtei V'Chinos. Shnei Ofanim Shel Sira Osius. There's two different ways that the letters can appear. Yechamuach Shuhu B'Sada Chasadim, that Moach which is the Chasadim the Das. Shem Elokim Demilui Alofim Shabo Sark Litzayir Os Aleph. So this is the piece that we learned about the letter Aleph, and I learned with this chavrus sometimes in the daytime. He brought this from, I think, the morale, that he started darshaning on this aleph. So he knew, but actually I had, little by little, I had come to this actually drush in SHAAR over there. He saw it before. He asked me about it, but he actually had learned it. Tzarek l'sayer os aleph shechel lemidu the os hey. So that aleph, what aleph are we talking about? That the letter hey that we're talking about, which is the hey aleph, the Elokim shetichye b'tzir yud vav yud kazeh, and he shows it to us. And then he said the hainu kav alachzon. So he's just explaining it out. He says the alachzon, that is the diagonal shal aleph b'tzir os vav al gabov, and on top of that sir os yud v'gam tachto b'tzir os yud avach l'moch shul b'tzad hagavur das, which is a shem elokem, the milui alofen shebechem tzarek l'tzayer os ha'alav, the milui hey shebo b'tzir yud vav dalad, like that, because the dalad we learned, this is not the first time we've seen this, the hainu kav alachzon shal aleph, b'tzir os vav, al gaba would be the yud again, but tachtav would be the dalad. Knizkar b'sefer Zohar says in the Zohar of Tikunim, etc. V'atam hu ki yud tachtona, that yud, the one that's on the bottom, tzuras, which has the tzuras of the aleph, b'chiyosat tzuras hayud, he b'bechinas zohar. So he says when it says yud vav yud, that's male. V'av'chein ki keneged the muach shebetzad HaChasadim Dedas. So that's also called the Chasadim Dedas. Gitzad the Yom Dedas Nechshav parts of Hazochar. So he says it's actually a parts of by itself, but it's a male parts of. It's a parts of that going from the top to the bottom. The Yosef Surah's Dalad, with it being in the form of the Dalad, he became this naked, nekeva. So therefore it corresponds to the much that's on the gevurah's dika side, the das. Gitzad the small the das nechshav parts of the keva, so it's like once again the word parts of. The mashon is bar sha'oros dalad he nekeva. We know this fact. He says we know that Chabisod os dalad shel tevis echad, the kriya shema. We have a drush on that. Ki ha'oz dalad romezes the midis amalchus betam shemakom abidaza who connected dalad sphere shel hazachar, because it corresponds where it's located is behind the dalad spheres of the dachar, which I'm assuming is the tanahi of the zachar. Va'amlach b'yisod the Yisrael sav devuna. So in the yisod over there. Oh, the Abba ve'imber Elohim shebaru mezlavish muach hadas, and you have the das in this different sections that they cover over the muach hadas. He said that the godless rishon, oh shnenu, if we're talking godless here, it's not going to be Elokems, it's going to be who yesh b'cha v'shinui acher ki chamuch shebetzad ha'chasad das heim nikra b'shem havaya dema. They're the havaya dema, the milhui alofen, and he shows the havaya dema. Which is the male aspect. So it's going to be a different ben. Now, and he shows the shuhu b'tevis bechinas nekeva. It's something. It's the left side is female. So since it's possible to have a hint to another milui, Ein Sorkler Mos Beshinui Tzuras Olofim, so then we're not concerned about that. We don't have to go to the Olofim. Here we have different, the wrappings, that is the clothing itself is going to be a ben or a ma. Now let's go over a little bit more and let's see where we're at. Now the topic here is Hashemus Amocha Dekatnas V'Gadol Sheni. Let's talk about that. That's what he said up there. We'll read the Pirush. Katnas Sheni Hu Akadatam. Bekam Ravona v'Gadol Sheni Hu Chavaya b'Milui. V'achar kach nechnas mochim shal katnas Sheni al yedei Abba v'Ima. Now all of this when he talked about katnas Rishon, now he's talking about katnas Sheni. He's not talking about the actual way that they come in. He's just talking about what they are. Abba v'Ima reilocha b'levusha nimshachim b'chem. V'hu shem akadatam. Belevush netzach hod yisod, and they're covered over belushin of the night. Those mochin, that's the name of the mochin, are called akadatam. Is that right? V'hu shem akadatam belevush netzach hod yisod, inside of the imri law. Aval hashine shebechem, but so also we notice that the entrance into Zer Anpin is from Ima Ilor this time. So what happened to Yisrael Sabbat Tavuna? So they're absorbed inside of Zer Anpin, and these are higher level mochin that are coming in a different stage. I'm not sure what happened to the Yisrael Sabbat and Tavuna. Okay, so they collapsed, or they became combined into one. This is where the differences are, because there's four mochin, right? And they're akadatam. So he said, so which is the name anadatam that's inside of the lavush of the night, or just of the netzach. The kavin bo bebechidas chamesh os Yosef, so we look at it in terms of just the count of its letters, atzman, bilvaj, which is akadatam, which is 5. Shahem chiluf kol chamesh osios shel elokim knizga le'el. We talked about this before. He says, behind those osios akadatam, so these letters now, hema osios shalifnei osios elokim, they're the letters that come before, as we know. So now the Takadatam, which is in the lavush of Hod, so it's inside, covered over by Hod. So here we have to think about it in terms of two different kinds of ways that it could exist. We're going to stop here soon, so if we can get to the back. V'aim nekroim aim gal. Now I like this one because, gal is very important to me, because of the number 33. Nikroiv aim gal. So what pshat b'bechinas osios al derek mocha chochmach on nizkar? Lo b'bechinas cheshbon gematria b'chav derek mocha das the l'chalon. So he's saying here we're actually using gematria, not just the letters themselves. Rotza lomer ki shtei osios, these two loaves of rishonos, which is os achram shel shem mekadatem, shem osios aim, nimnim mifnei atzman ki elocha osios maschila mitachila, these letters from the beginning, enim mischalvos, they don't switch ba'osios sechera ki kachem atzman b'shem elokim, because they're still part of the original name Elokim. Okay, so therefore you have this kind of aim gal. So those are the first two letters. Valkain, so therefore, heim bechinas din mamish. They're really a bechina of din, just plain din, kamosh, just the same thing as the name Elokim. So the letters have this power. So down below, when we're talking about the lag ba'omer, this boyer tam nachal lazeh, so we explain the proper understanding. He zechad ki osios kadat, the letters in the middle, shehema osios seius b'shem akadatam, this chalvach l'machamem yosem oris aim, because they could be switched and they could be moved to the right, which is the derech of rachamim. Shebetachibon on this chalvach klal, originally there was no switch, there were elokims. Ba'ayin shechab maman shedizbar v'zechab she'al kain b'yom lag la'omer. That's the way he says it. Pasgu malchus, and malchus stops. So he says, what's pshat over there? So what he says, excuse me, I read it wrong. La'omer pasgu melamavis, the dying stop. Kiminyan lab romes his gavus midas rachma midas mitam anizkar. So it's like that you have this rachmanas, but it's framed by din. So inside of the din, you have to get to that point. Inside of the din is this rachmanas. V'shlosh osem seiyu shehem kadat, those are only b'gematria gal. Here we come over to lag. Is kedei lahorosh ki shehem mischalvos v'din the rachmim, because when they will switch, they will switch from din to rachmim. Ki hoy mekoded lechem ba'osios lamed ke yud. the Shem Elokim, and now though it's Kadat. So he says din v'kol temuras din hu rachamim. Okay, so let me stop here.